Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today is a special one because I'm going to be doing a Blu-ray recommendation video. I'm talking about my Q series. This is the third, and this is for the month of June. So what have I been watching in June? I've actually been doing several things. I have my mind everywhere, honestly. But the biggest thing that I'm doing right now is a thing called Junesploitation. Brought to you by the guys who do Fthismovie podcast, and honestly, I'm fairly new to this. My friend Daniel over at Cobwebs, he's the one who got me involved with this, and I've been, doing this every day in June. What it really is there each day there's a different genre or theme, and really you just kind of go showcase what that is. So today is the 17th day in June, and so we're tackling Lucio Fulci, and so I'm going to watch The Beyond for the first time. So I've been watching a new fresh movie each day, and it can go from anywhere from Cars to Lucio Fulci. All these different genres and themes can be really broad, and honestly it's really fluid, so you can choose whatever you want. Some of them are a little bit more limited because obviously Fulci is a director, and so you'll have to pick one of his films, but some of them are like Cars, so I'll explain that when I show you my picks, and some Blu-rays that I recommend that you pick up yourself, and some things that I've first time watched, so it's really great. But the first thing I want to showcase is something outside of Junesploitation, something that I'm also watching currently at the same time, and I'm halfway through it, and I'm just absolutely in love with this documentary series, and I cannot believe it took me this long to watch it. In fact, it's super relevant even to today and the time that it came out. What am I talking about? I'm talking about OJ Made in America. So this right here is the limited edition box set that has the 3 DVDs and 2 Blu-ray copies. And so the DVDs and the Blu-rays are like the same thing. It has 5 parts and a bonus with it, and this is an awesome, amazing box set right here. It's really well made. Now mine is used, so there is a big line across the front cover, but not getting upset about it. I actually think this actually kind of works for the release because it really just shows the dividing line of what the themes of this story entail. So O.J. Simpson, you just see, the man, the myth, the legend, the narcissism that exists with him, very insular into himself, his football career in LA, and doing all those different things that he just wants to do living in white suburbia. And then you also have the civil rights movement happening, a lot of race riots, Rodney King, and Nicole Brown, his wife that he kills, and all of these events all somehow coincide together and is really well made, and a lot of the themes really resonate today, and unfortunately that's just the case, and it's just a super relevant documentary. I really got involved with this actually because I have recently watched The Last Dance, another ESPN 30 for 30. This is also a 30 for 30 ESPN documentary event, and I've been watching a lot more documentary series, and I also watched the Women Make Film, and that is a Mark Cousins documentary, and I highly recommend checking that out as well. Released on Cohen Media, and I certainly would check that out. But let's just showcase this box set real quick. Let's just open it up. It's got like a really nice matte. It's got even a ribbon so you can pull out the discs and a little booklet with all the discs in it. And so right here, on each of these pages are a different showcasing of OJ or what's going on at the time. So like the first one right here shows all of O.J. Simpson's career football statistics. So 1968 Heisman Trophy winner, 4 rushing titles, etc., 5 Pro Bowls, all of that. This one right here shows the historic events of 1968, which is a very tumultuous year, and it's just how crazy that LA was kind of out of it. At least in OJ's life, he was kind of like doing all these great things, and a lot of crazy things were happening. And then right here is the Bronco chase route. And so everyone knows in 1994 there was a really crazy OJ car chase that happened, and it kind of showcases all of that on a map. Right here is the Rockingham evidence map, so all the places that OJ went after killing Nicole Brown, and it's just really crazy how all that entails. And then this last one right here, there's a little Johnny Cochran, who's one of the defenders of OJ who got really famous in the trial of the century. And then has a lot of quotes and a lot of different things involved with it. But yeah, this is a really great set, and unfortunately it's still relevant to today, even after a few years of this coming out, and also, covering 1968, 1994, all of the things in the 80s, all of the abuse that he did, and yeah, it's a good set. Right now is a good time to watch it, so certainly check this out. If you haven't, check out OJ Made in America. So let's jump from here to Junesploitation. Junesploitation. Okay, so each day I'm going to showcase what I've done. Like June 1st was Cars, June 2nd is Revenge, etc., etc. And I'll showcase the theme, and I'll showcase the movie and talk a little bit about it. So day one was Cars. So I could have went anywhere, any direction with this. I could have picked the Disney movie Cars. I could have picked Fast and Furious. I even could have picked a Steve McQueen Bullitt film. But I chose Jacques Tati's 1971 classic, Traffic. Now, right behind me is the Jacques Tati box set. I have only seen Playtime and Traffic. I haven't seen much of Tati's work, but I've really enjoyed what I've seen. Obviously, you have Mr. Hulat, Monsieur Hulat, who is like the character of Tati that he just likes to portray in each of his films. And yeah, it's just a really crazy car designer. Mr. Hulot is a car designer, and he's trying to get to a showcase of this really, really decked out kind of Swiss Army knife camper that he's got. And it's just a really, really funny and really crazy film, and it's just all over the place. I highly recommend this. If you haven't seen this film, certainly get this box set right behind me. A complete Jacques Tati box set. It's super wonderful, and I can't wait to delve further into it. But yeah, Traffic is a good one, and one of his later career films. So let's move on from there to Revenge. All right, so day two was Revenge, and I actually chose a Steven Spielberg film that I haven't seen. In fact, I've been kind of going through some of Steven Spielberg's missing links that I haven't seen. So a few weeks ago, I watched AI for the first time, and I really enjoyed it. When I say a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. But I also watched his movie from 2005. That is Munich. And Munich, starring Eric Bana, is a real-life event that occurred of retaliation between Israel and Palestine. We have some Israeli Olympic team got killed and murdered from Palestinians, and it's just this really crazy event where there was revenge behind the scenes. And this is a really, really long film made by Steven Spielberg. It's about 2 hours and 44 minutes, so it's almost 3 hours long, but there's no dull moment. And Steven Spielberg makes it really compelling, and also kind of just shows you the middle ground of like what happens with revenge, and what happens when you see that retaliation occur, and especially between two groups that have so much history between each other. And honestly, it doesn't really pick a side in this, and it just shows you how horrific all of these things could be. And honestly, it's a really great film. I think it's like a precursor to kind of the latter stuff that Spielberg's been doing, something like Bridge of Spies, for instance. I really enjoyed this film, and I think Eric Bana is great. Where the heck is he anyway? But yeah, that was my second pick for June 2nd. It was Revenge. So let's move on to day 3, June 3rd. All right, so June 3rd is actually Italian horror, and this is a film that I recently talked about on my channel. And I watched Dario Argento's Deep Red from 1975, the Giallo to end all Giallos, if you will. And I absolutely love this film. This was my second Argento film. I watched Suspiria not that long ago, maybe a couple years ago for the first time. And then obviously I watched Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria, which I also loved. Very, very different films. But Deep Red, I really, really enjoyed this film. It's one of the longer Giallo films. It's about 2 hours long, and it's got a really great score by Goblin, of course, and really great performances. I love that Giallo blood. There's a lot of attention to detail in this movie, and I really love that aspect about it. Like the murders, kind of like the intrigue, like, okay, who's doing all this? And you got that black lace and leather, and then just the gore, and it's just really, really fun. And it's a good movie of a whodunit. And I absolutely love it, and I highly recommend Deep Red if you haven't, and I will watch more Argento films in the future soon. All right, so let's look at day 4. Day 4 was Animals, and so I could have went anywhere with this, but I decided to pick a classic film that I've been wanting to watch for the longest time, but just have not had the time or maybe the mindset to watch it, but I feel like this is perfect. I watched the classic film from 1933, King Kong. This is the first time I've watched this one, and I know it's one of those classic films. It's the beauty that killed the beast. That iconic ending at the line. I actually kind of scoff at that line a little bit. It's a little too cliche, but I really enjoyed this film. The practical stop motion animation that works in this film is just really fantastic. In fact, this is like a precursor to like maybe the Carol Zemans of the world, and I absolutely really love the creativity involved with this film, and it still feels so relevant to today, even though some of the acting and maybe some of the themes of like colonialism, etc., definitely don't fit with today's standards, but it's certainly a movie that is super fun to watch, super involved, and it came out in 1933. That's the Great Depression time period, and there was a lot of things going wrong with the world at this time, especially in the U.S. With the economy, and a lot of people went to this film, and it just made them feel a lot better. And I really like that background story, because this right here is a really cool addition. It kind of gives you a little bit of a background in this booklet of all of the things that happened during the production of this, the people who were involved, the directors, like, the people who funded the film, the actors in it as well, and it's just really, really great. And I want to say that I was really pleasantly surprised by this. And Faye Ray, who is the actress in this film, I absolutely adored. I loved her in this, and I love her scream. I think it's so I couldn't imagine a better scream for this. And so yes, check out King Kong if you haven't. I'm probably the last person on earth who hasn't seen this movie, so I'm glad to have seen this finally. So let's look at June 5th. All right, so June 5th was sci-fi, and so I chose a film that was sitting on my shelf. It's been on my shelf for way too long, so I decided to tackle it, and that is Mr. Nobody, with Jared Leto playing Nemo, Nobody, and he is the last mortal man on Earth, and he's recounting kind of parts of his life, and he is trying to piece together. It's definitely a very a piece by piece kind of recurrence of what's going on with a lot of the events. Maybe it's jumping around from past to present. It's really fun. I think it's a really cool and thought-provoking kind of sci-fi, and it's definitely pretty original. There's definitely some films that I've seen like it, like Cloud Atlas, for instance, and there's a lot of really, really good, really great effects in this, and Jared Leto does a pretty good job in it. And yeah, Mr. Nobody is a good time, and so I would recommend it. And so moving on from June 5th to June 6th, the day was Jackie Chan. So Jackie Chan Day, I had to finally, I gotta jump into my Jackie Chan police stories that I just recently picked up not that long ago from Criterion. In fact, this was a really recent release, so I watched Police Story. And so I watched the first Police Story for Jackie Chan Day, and I had a really good time. Damn, what a great combination of action and insane stunts, and also comedy. Like, this was just such a fun film, and I just can't wait to rewatch it over and over and over again. It's just one of those films that I feel like I'm going to be watching over and over again, and I've said that way too many times, but it's all in Cantonese, and there's a lot of really great stunt work in this. I mean, there's that iconic scene with the umbrella right here, right on the bus, and near the beginning, where there's a really great chase scene that honestly made me have some anxiety attacks myself, especially when he was on that big hill running down. I thought he was going to definitely trip. And yeah, this is just a crazy film, and Jackie Chan, despite all of some of the recent things that he's done, I know that there's some controversies with him. I didn't even say controversy correctly. But yeah, this is a really great release, and I'm happy to own it. And so yeah, Jackie Chan Day, I had to watch Police Story. So day 7 was actually a free space, so that means I could watch anything. And as you probably have watched my channel for a little bit, I've been watching the Hammer Horror Dracula films and the Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing's of the world. And so I had to watch Jess Franco's Count Dracula, right? Because it's definitely on my mind. And so I finally watched this movie, and this was great. This is definitely one of the better adaptations of Bram Stoker's original Dracula. But this is Dracula with a mustache. But I really enjoyed this film. This was kind of like the precursor for the 79 Dracula, which would eventually be the precursor for the Coppola film as well. But yeah, no, I just really, really enjoyed this one, and it certainly felt like Christopher Lee enjoyed this a lot more than some of the stuff he did with Hammer Horror, because I feel like it was a little bit less schlocky, a little bit more serious, and Jess Franco definitely went with that direction. I really enjoyed the first act quite a bit, the most myself, and then it kind of simmered out, but I really enjoyed the end as well. And yeah, some really great performances in here. Christopher Lee does a really great job, and there's actually a really great scene in this one that Jonathan is in Dracula's castle when he first comes, and then there's a close-up of Christopher Lee talking, and then there's a fang that shows up as he's saying, "Listen to them, the children of the night." And then it's just, I don't know, it gave me chills. It's definitely one of the best deliveries of that line, and it's iconic. So yeah, check out 1970s Count Dracula, if you haven't seen this. This one's from Severin, and I think it's going out of print. So if you're able to get this, definitely try to, okay? All right, let's move on from there. All right, for June 8th, I actually picked a film for 80s action. That's what 80s action, so I could have definitely picked any type of film. I kind of cheated and I picked an 80s Western, Young Guns. I have had this on my shelf for way too long, and we have Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen, Dermot Mulroney, and Casey Siemaszko. And yeah, these are a lot of really great people from the 80s especially. I mean, obviously Emilio Estevez and Kiefer Sutherland being two of the bigger names right here, and Lou Diamond Phillips, of course. But yeah, this is an all-star cast of just a lot of young guys, young guns, if you will. Kind of just a revenge story for this guy who brings them all together, is kind of teaching them just ways of peace and pacifism, and, you know, trying to like just teach them moral lessons as well, I guess. And eventually he's killed and they have to enact revenge. But it's a really crazy movie. It's a really fun Western. It's got some really great lines in it. I need to watch it again to really get those lines down. I know this is a classic for a lot of people, but this is my first time watch, and so I enjoyed Young Guns. But yeah, if any of you have seen it, definitely check out Young Guns, and you'll have a good time with this one. All right, so moving on from here, we have a really crazy film. All right, so that crazy film is a slashers film. So June 9th was slashers, and I chose the movie Sleepaway Camp. Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy movie. This, if you haven't seen this movie, this is a Scream Factory, by the way. It's one of those amazing teen movies. It's like Wet Hot American Summer mixes slasher. If you haven't seen this movie, you certainly check it out. It's got some pretty crazy twists in it, and that's all I'm really going to say about Sleepaway Camp. I had a good time, though. I watched it with my best friend, and we rewound it a few times on some certain parts, and had a lot of good laughs. And so, yeah, that was my slasher day. Sleepaway Camp's insane. And yeah, I had a good time, though. All right, so moving on to June 10th, we picked Cops. So Cops is a really tough one because a lot of things are going on right now with Cops. So I actually went with a safe route, and I picked Infernal Affairs, which is a Cantonese film, a Hong Kong film, and this was like kind of the precursor of The Departed. This was where Scorsese probably got the idea for The Departed. It's a really great Hong Kong film that really showcases a lot of different styles, really great camera work, a lot of really great action, and also a lot of really good thriller moments, and you're not really knowing who to trust. You have a cop working in the triad, and you also have a triad member kind of working in the cop system, or he's working with the triad, and it's you know, you're trying to figure out who you should trust and who you care about in this movie. I mean, it gives you hints at the beginning of how this is all going to go down, and it's just a really amazing look into just corruption and how that all unfolds. And so it really is relevant to today and also relevant in America. But yeah, I watched Infernal Affairs and I had a really good time with it. And this movie came out not that long ago in 2002, so I guess it's 18 years old. So yeah, it's a little bit dated, but it's a really great film. So if you haven't checked out Infernal Affairs and you like The Departed, certainly do so, because it's a really good time. All right, so moving on to June 11th, we actually have a blaxploitation film, and many of you know I picked a Pam Grier film. I picked Coffee, and I really enjoyed this movie. You know, Coffee, played by Pam Grier, is on revenge. Her little sister was killed, and she wants to take out the gang and the pimps that did this. And so she infiltrates that, I guess, ring with all the other girls. There's quite a bit of some nudity involved in this movie as well. I guess that's just the 70s time is definitely a crazy one. But yeah, no, there was a lot of really cool deaths and a lot of cool revenge plots involved with this. There's also a lot of parts of this film that were really hard to watch in my eyes. At least there one particular one with a car and dragging another guy behind the car. I didn't really like that, but at the same time, I guess it was showing you how evil these people are that she's trying to stop. And so yeah, but Coffee was a really good time. I cannot wait to check out more blaxploitation films, whether it be Dracula or Foxy Brown or any of those other films that I'm just, you know, I'm new to them, so I can't wait to check out more. But Coffee was a really good time, so I had a really good representation of Pam Grier and blaxploitation. So, all right, so moving on from blaxploitation, I'm gonna try to pick this up just a little bit. Day 12 was Kung Fu, and so of course I chose Jackie Chan Police Story 2. I had to watch Police Story 2 after watching Police Story, you know. So Police Story 2 is just a continuation of Police Story, kind of picks up right after the events of the first one, and it's really, really great, and I would highly recommend it. These double feature right here is really, really wonderful. A lot of really great action scenes. I feel like the action was definitely amplified in the second one, and also the comedy was too. There's a really great scene involving telephones that I highly recommend, and the special features on this Criterion release is just really phenomenal too. A lot of behind-the-scenes stunt work, and a lot of the things that Jackie Chan and his stunt team really showcases just truly wonderful, and it's really unbelievable how they pulled all this stuff off. Day 13 was another free space, and so I get to choose whatever I wanted to. So I chose the 1946 mystery thriller, also kind of a horror, supernatural horror film to an extent. I don't know if it's supernatural at all, but 1946 film, The Spiral Staircase. And I was just blown away by this film. This is on Kino Lorber, starring Dorothy McGuire. We have George Brent and Ethel Barrymore, there's just a lot of really crazy special effects involved with this, and this film has so much atmosphere involved with it too, and just kind of zooms into the eyes of the killer and trying to figure out, oh, who is this person? It actually kind of reminds me of Deep Red, what they would do later on, kind of just figuring out like that eye, you know, like you can see the killer's eye. But really, really great film, and I would highly recommend checking this film out because it's got a lot of really great performances in it as well. Like I said, especially Dorothy McGuire, who's trying to she's like mute the whole time. So there's something that happened in her past where she really can't like communicate, and there's that effect plays really, really well in this movie, and you can just see it showcased with this one. But yeah, Spiral Staircase is really, really great, and I'd highly recommend it. All right, so day 14 was Sword and Sorcery, so I decided, and yes, you can put me in the comment section down below, you can tell me how I haven't seen this. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Conan the Barbarian. This is the double pack with the Destroyer as well. I haven't seen the Destroyer yet, but I finally watched Conan the Barbarian, and I had a really good time with it, but at the same time, I feel like this movie meandered a lot. It definitely was an aimless walk. I enjoyed it, and it's definitely fun, and seeing Arnold all like just, you know, muscled out, and also just seeing James Earl Jones as a snake and turn into a snake is just crazy. But yeah, there's a lot of fun parts to this movie, and it's definitely a fun film. But like I said, there are some moments in this film that kind of just meander a little bit too long, and I feel like it could use a little bit of shortening. And but yeah, it's a really good revenge kind of story because obviously, as most of these sword and sorcery films kind of begin, his family was killed, and so he's got to take revenge on them. So I guess that's really the theme of Junesploitation has been revenge so far that I've noticed. All right, so let's move on from sword and sorcery to day 15, which was westerns. So for the westerns film, I chose a classic film from 1939. I love this film. Destry Rides Again. Marlene Dietrich, James Stewart. Wow. I love this movie. It's certainly one of my favorite films that I've watched out of all these movies that I'm talking about. And I had a really good time with this Western comedy with really great songs involved, a lot of really, really great deliveries about pants. There's a lot of really comedic lines involving pants and bedding pants and trying to get those. And yeah, it's got really great performances in it. And I feel like Marlene Dietrich, this was like a revival for her. She had kind of been shunned by Hollywood at this point, and so this is a second revival of Marlene Dietrich, and she just did such a great job. And honestly, I loved her the most in this movie because she certainly, like, there's a particular scene where James Stewart and her meet, and James Stewart's sent there kind of as a deputy to like kind of bring order to the town, and he does it in a very unconventional way without any guns, and it's really hilarious. He just smiles at all of the villains involved in the film, making them feel like they're idiots. And Marlene Dietrich won't take that stupid stance and just starts throwing everything that she can find while everyone's like cheering the fight on. And it's just a really crazy scene, and it goes on for a long time, but it's a really great scene, and I would highly recommend checking out Destry Rides Again if you haven't seen it. It's on Criterion, and it was a recent release. It's Spine number 1024, and so certainly check out this film. Last movie I want to talk about is day 16. It was Kids. And so Kids, I didn't really know what direction to go with this. It could have been like Home Alone, or it could have been like an animated film. So I decided the latter, and I picked Lou Over the Wall. And so this right here is a G Kids release, Studio Ghibli, and I really, really love this. This is directed by Musaki Yuasa. and I want to say, I hope I'm correct with this one. He also did The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, and I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm looking forward to it. But I really loved how vibrant this film was. It's super colorful, it's super fluid, and it's about a small town and their fear of merfolk who eat people, and these kids who start a band, and they kind of enchant a merfolk to start singing with them, and yeah, it's just kind of changing the hearts of everybody in this town. It's really, really great. Definitely akin to Ponyo, another Miyazaki film, another Studio Ghibli film, I mean. But yeah, I really love this movie, and I had a really good time with it, and it definitely felt like it gave me a lot of really good little heartwarming things right here. So yeah, that's what I would recommend. I watched all of those films so far, and this is just half of the month. So today I'm watching The Beyond by Lucio Fulci because it's Lucio Fulci Day, and so I'm excited to dive into that. So have you seen any of the movies that I've described? Down below, tell me if you've seen any of them. I know this was a long one, but I wanted to talk about each of those movies, and certainly have a good time with this. And yeah, if any of you were going with this at this movie, Junesploitation, tell me. If you're not, just tell me what you're watching down in the comment section. I want to know. Thank you so much for watching this video. Give this video a like, comment down below, share it, don't forget the notification bell, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.